Welcome back. Today we're exploring a chilling case that shook Hudson, Florida in late August of 2014. The quiet coastal community, usually filled with the gentle rustling of palm trees and the subdued hum of distant lawnmowers, suddenly becomes the backdrop to a shocking crime that leaves 4 people dead inside a family home. Early one morning, on August 28, 2014, a concerned neighbor reports a foul odor emanating from a property at 7719 Hatteras Drive. It's hot and sticky. Florida's humidity seems to cling to everything. And as the Pasco County deputies arrive, they discover a scene that tests even the most seasoned officers. The air brims with tension and the smell of decay, windows closed against an oppressive summer heat, and the officers step inside with flashlights cutting through a dim and eerie quiet. Soon, 4 bodies are found: Megan Brown, her father Gregory, her mother Margaret, and Megan's new boyfriend Nicholas Leonard. Each victim subjected to unimaginable violence. The initial police response is swift. Yellow crime scene tape flutters at the edges of the property by midday. Uniformed officers and detectives in plain clothes exchange worried glances. Behind them, the media crews gather, camera lenses pointed like weapons of exposure. It doesn't take long for investigators to zero in on a suspect: Adam Matos, Megan's young son. At first glance, Adam's name emerges quietly, a man last known to be living under the same roof, a man known to have conflicts with Megan in the weeks leading up to the murders. There is a child involved, missing and unaccounted for, adding urgency to the hunt. Very quickly, the drama escalates, and what begins as a standard homicide call spirals into a heart-wrenching manhunt that holds an entire community hostage to fear. What follows is a meticulous unraveling of lives entangled: Megan, bright and hopeful; her parents, devoted and stable; Nicholas, a new chapter in her life. And opposite them stands Adam, a man whose troubled past and unstable nature will soon become alarmingly clear. Stay with us as we journey deeper into the minds and hearts behind these headlines, and uncover how a quiet Florida neighborhood turns into a grotesque stage for one of the state's most unsettling family massacres. Adam Matos is born into a world where stability comes at a premium. In his early 30s at the time of the crime, tall, lean, and carrying himself with a cautious gait, he stands out for his dark, brooding eyes that always seem to study his surroundings. He wears his hair short and neat, blending into suburban life but never fully becoming part of it. Those who know him, or at least think they do, describe him as reserved, a man who keeps his cards close to his chest. Yet behind those quiet manners lies a troubled tapestry woven from strands of familial dysfunction and early behavioral red flags. Adam's childhood is anything but idyllic. Born into a working-class family in the Northeast, he experiences a peripatetic upbringing: frequent moves, parental absences, and a shaky support system that leaves him yearning for stability. His father is a distant figure who drifts in and out of Adam's life, offering little guidance and even less warmth. His mother, overworked and stressed, provides the basics but struggles to meet his emotional needs. By the time he reaches adolescence, Adam displays unsettling signs: withdrawn moods, sudden angry outbursts, and a penchant for escaping into fantasy worlds. Teachers note his tendency to daydream and doodle dark imagery in the margins of his notebooks. Psychologists, brought in briefly during a period of severe mood swings, suggest he might be grappling with depression or another undiagnosed mental health condition. But these concerns slip through the cracks of an overburdened system. Academically, Adam is average. He completes high school but with no particular distinction, drifting afterward through a series of low-paid jobs: bartender, warehouse loader, and occasional handyman. He never seems to settle long enough to build a career. Instead, he survives on unstable paychecks and the occasional loan from distant relatives. Socially, he remains on the fringes. He is not one to attend big gatherings or forge lasting friendships. Instead, he latches onto individuals who show him kindness, often too intensely, and when these connections falter, his resentment simmers quietly beneath a polite surface. Romantic relationships prove equally fraught. He has several short-lived affairs, each ending in dramatic fights or tearful partings. Some ex-girlfriends describe him as jealous, possessive, and prone to alternating bouts of intense affection and cold detachment. By the time he meets Megan Brown, Adam has little to show for himself. No stable career, no savings, and a growing sense that life has passed him by. He nurses private insecurities about masculinity and success. On social media, his few posts show him holding on to fleeting hobbies: fishing, playing video games, reading conspiracy theory forums. He is perpetually in financial trouble, borrowing from friends who soon learn he rarely pays back. This precarious existence breeds desperation and a longing for control over at least one aspect of his life. Megan Brown, by contrast, is the sort of person who brings light into a room. In her mid-20s, she is sunny and warm, with a smile that radiates kindness. She lives with her parents, Gregory and Margaret Brown, a stable and loving couple who have invested their lives into ensuring their daughter and her older brother have every opportunity possible. Megan grows up in a home defined by encouragement, family dinners, weekend trips to the Gulf beaches, and an emphasis on education and personal growth. Gregory works a steady job in the telecommunications industry, while Margaret is active in community volunteer work. Megan's upbringing is secure, and she emerges as a gentle soul with a passion for caring for others. She studies to become a veterinary technician, drawn to animals and their unconditional love. Surrounded by a network of supportive friends, she cherishes small gatherings, game nights, and Sunday morning coffee with her parents. She looks forward to building a career, settling down, and starting a family. It's at a local event, some say a casual barbecue introduced by mutual acquaintances, where Adam and Megan first crossed paths in 2012. Adam, still new to Florida after drifting down from the Northeast, strikes Megan as quiet but polite. They chat over paper plates of grilled chicken and potato salad. Megan's laughter is soft, encouraging him to open up. Adam, for the moment, seems harmless, even attentive. They exchange phone numbers and soon begin spending time together. The first few months are unremarkable but pleasant. Movies at home, walks along the coast, quiet dinners at low-key restaurants. Megan sees a man who might just need understanding. Adam sees a chance to anchor himself to something real. In mid-2013, Megan discovers she's pregnant. The news brings a mixture of joy and apprehension. Her parents are cautiously supportive, her friends optimistic. Megan's eyes shine with the thrill of impending motherhood. She imagines her future, a home filled with love, family holidays, and a stable partnership. But from the start, something about Adam's reaction feels off. He says the right words. He's happy, he'll stand by her, but there's a tightness in his smile, a reluctance in his voice. He struggles to hold steady jobs, and his inability to contribute financially strains their relationship. Megan tries to remain patient, believing love and communication can solve these problems. But as the pregnancy progresses, underlying tensions bubble to the surface. Adam grows jealous and controlling. He resents Megan's closeness with her parents, who he feels undermine his role. Megan tries to include him in decisions about the nursery, medical appointments, and future plans, but he drifts in and out, sometimes engaged, sometimes distant. When their son is born, Megan's world shifts. She adores the baby, and her parents step in with unwavering support. Adam, however, seems conflicted. On good days, he cradles the infant and marvels at the tiny fingers. On bad days, he withdraws, complaining about money or muttering darkly about feeling like an outsider in her family's home. Megan tries to keep the peace, but as months pass, fights become more frequent. There are allegations of domestic disputes. Neighbors recall hearing raised voices late at night. Megan begins confiding in a close friend that Adam's mood swings frighten her. Her parents grow wary, their faces etched with worry whenever Megan tries to cover bruises with long sleeves or explain away Adam's angry outbursts as just stress. By August 2014, the relationship is all but over. Megan, determined to move forward, reconnects with an old acquaintance, Nicholas Leonard, who represents something Adam cannot: stability and genuine caring. Megan's decision to move on to allow Nicholas into her life and home pushes Adam's insecurities into overdrive. He still lives at the Brown household, complicating matters. It's a strange arrangement, with Adam sleeping in one part of the home and Megan, along with Nicholas, forging a new bond in another. Her parents look on uneasily, hoping Adam will leave amicably, not wanting a confrontation, but aware of his simmering resentment. Hudson, Florida in 2014 is a community in flux. The housing market has begun a slow recovery after the recession, and families who once felt financial strain are starting to breathe easier. The area is known for its canals and access to the Gulf of Mexico, attracting a mix of retirees, working-class families, and snowbirds escaping northern winters. The Brown family's neighborhood is a quiet corner of Pasco County, where children bike in cul-de-sacs, retirees tend rose bushes, and modest stucco homes line streets named after coastal destinations. The humid August air presses down like a damp blanket, and that summer's storms have been sporadic, but intense. On the morning the neighbors notice something amiss, the sky hovers between pale sunlight and the threat of an afternoon thunderstorm. Cicadas drone in the background, and the humidity is so thick that everyone stays indoors until late evening. In this seemingly idyllic environment, the Brown home stands as a cozy, well-kept property. There's a white mailbox with the family name carefully painted, a neat lawn, and a small driveway leading to a garage. Only a few days earlier, neighbors would wave at each other, remark on the heat, and think nothing of the Brown residence beyond it being home to a pleasant family. If one were to drive a few blocks over, they'd find the local grocery store, a family-owned diner, and a park where parents watch their children squeal with delight on swings. Crime here is mostly petty, car break-ins or minor vandalism. A quadruple homicide is unthinkable. In August 2014, the national mood is still uneasy, with distant headlines of unrest elsewhere, but Hudson feels sheltered. Recent local events include a community yard sale and a civic meeting discussing noise ordinances. Nothing prepares anyone for what is about to unfold in the Brown home. The property at 7,719 Hatteras will soon become a grim landmark, a warning that even in quiet suburbs, danger can lurk behind pastel walls and well-trimmed hedges. Inside the Brown home, tensions mount quietly. The living room, where family photos line the shelves and a ceiling fan lazily stirs the air, becomes the stage for hushed arguments. Megan and Nicholas try to plan their future. Nicholas looks forward to a stable relationship, maybe moving out to their own place soon. Megan's parents, Gregory and Margaret, support their daughter and enjoy Nicholas's company, viewing him as kind and respectful, a good match for Megan and a positive influence on her young son. Meanwhile, Adam slinks around the periphery, his presence increasingly unsettling. He picks at his fingernails, paces the hallways late at night. There's something taut and frayed about him, like a guitar string wound too tight, ready to snap. Friends who visit the Browns recall awkward scenes, Megan looking anxious when Adam enters the room, Gregory's polite but curt nods toward the man who still lingers under his roof, Margaret's gentle attempts to defuse tension with offers of sweet tea and polite conversation. Nicholas tries to maintain an even keel, but he senses hostility radiating from Adam. At a late July gathering, a friend overhears Megan whisper to her mother, "I wish he would just leave." Margaret sighs. "Soon, honey, soon." Gregory, ever the practical patriarch, hopes to solve it quietly. He believes Adam's time in the house is nearly at an end. Yet no one can guess how dire the situation will become, how these strained relations will soon ignite into unimaginable violence. Megan and Adam's relationship once had tender beginnings, but now, with their son asleep in a crib down the hall, the emotional landscape has changed. When they first met, Megan saw Adam as a kindred spirit who needed understanding. Now she sees him as an obstacle to her family's peace. Adam, once content to ride along in Megan's good graces, now feels pushed aside. It's late August, and he watches Nicholas and Megan interact with an intensity that chills the air around him. He sees himself as replaced, discarded. He resents Gregory and Margaret for taking Megan's side, for welcoming Nicholas, and for viewing him as a burden. He resents Megan for moving on too quickly, for smiling in a way she no longer does at him. This simmering tension builds toward crisis. On August 27, 2014, neighbors recall a heated argument echoing from the Brown home. The voices are muffled, indistinct, but angry. A slammed door resonates through the humid night. Overhead, the moon hangs low, and a distant rumble of thunder hints at a coming storm. Inside, Adam clenches his fists, breathing heavily, struggling with the urge to lash out. Megan, holding her son, tries to keep calm. Gregory and Margaret stand resolute, refusing to be intimidated. Nicholas steps in once, only to have Adam glare at him with a look that sends shivers down the spine. In these final days, warning signs flash like neon lights, but no one acts decisively. Megan considers calling the police to have Adam removed, but she hesitates. Gregory thinks maybe Adam needs one last push out the door, a conversation, a firm boundary. Margaret wonders if compassion can solve this, if maybe Adam just needs understanding. Nicholas suggests they leave for a bit, give Adam time to move on, but no one takes that final step, and the storm inside the household builds to a crescendo, unacknowledged until it is too late. On that fateful night, August 28, 2014, as a tropical depression hovers in the Gulf, the humidity turns suffocating. Near midnight, lightning flickers in the distance, illuminating the quiet streets for a heartbeat at a time. While the neighbors sleep, Adam's mind races. He may tell himself that he won't be humiliated, that he won't let them take away what's rightfully his. He retrieves a firearm, perhaps something he'd hidden away for emergencies, and takes his time, adrenaline making every moment sharp and bright. Footsteps creak on floorboards. Doors open, muffled voices, then screams. By the time the sun rises, the deed is done. 4 bodies lie still, their lives snuffed out in a terrifying rampage. The Brown home's silence is now absolute. Later, when a neighbor senses something off, perhaps no morning activity, no cars leaving the driveway, and that strange odor, the police respond with haste. The early afternoon heat makes their work unbearable. Officers step inside, flashlights dancing across chaos, furniture overturned, the pungent smell of death saturating the stale air. They find Megan first, her body in a bedroom, signs of a violent struggle. Then Gregory and Margaret, each discovered in separate rooms, victims of savage, cold-blooded violence. Nicholas is found last, his future with Megan destroyed before it could blossom. A crime scene investigator notes that the thermostat is set low, the air conditioner humming, as if Adam tried to slow the decay. Blood spatter patterns tell a story of movement, confrontation, desperate attempts to escape. Items are scattered, a half-drunk glass of water on the kitchen counter, a television remote discarded by a couch. Outside, rain begins to fall softly. The crime scene tape goes up as the stench of tragedy drifts into the heavy afternoon air. News crews arrive and stunned neighbors peer from behind curtains. The police identify Adam Matos as a prime suspect almost immediately. He's missing, and so is Megan's young son. An Amber Alert follows. The community, once content and trusting, now clenches in fear. Helicopters circle overhead. The media calls it a family massacre. Headline after headline, 4 dead in Hudson home. TV anchors sweat under camera lights as they relay the grim story. Shock ripples through the neighborhood, the state, and soon the nation. Overnight, the Brown home becomes a symbol of something broken in society's understanding of domestic strife and mental instability. As investigators descend on the scene, forensic teams meticulously photograph every room. They collect bullet casings, swab bloodstains, and send fragments of shattered glass to the lab. A timeline emerges. Sometime in the early morning hours of August 28, Adam Matos commits the murders. He likely flees soon after, possibly taking the family's car. Witnesses recall seeing a suspicious figure driving away before dawn, the taillights fading into the humid darkness. A neighbor, sleepless from the heat, thinks they heard a car door slam around 4:30 a.m. Another claims to have seen a man fitting Adam's description hurrying down the street. The police work quickly to piece together these fragments. For example, the men they relieved of duty said that one of them stole motor vehicles. In the days that follow, a massive manhunt begins. Adam is spotted at a nearby hotel, then at a local convenience store. Surveillance footage captures him buying food, diapers, and a few supplies, the child still in his custody. The community holds its breath. Will the police catch him before he harms the child? News stations cycle through Adam's mugshot and images of Megan and her family laughing at a summer barbecue, the painful juxtaposition of life and death. Experts appear on morning shows, psychologists explaining how an unstable, jealous partner can become lethal under pressure. Domestic violence advocates speak out, urging families in similar situations to seek help before it's too late. Detectives reconstruct the murders step by step. The forensic experts find that each victim appears to have been killed with a firearm, likely a handgun. Trajectory analysis suggests close-range shots. There are signs of a struggle in the hallway, a broken vase, scatterings of papers, a kicked-over chair. Blood spatter on the walls suggests strewn personal belongings strewn on the bed. In one room, investigators discover personal belongings strewn on the bed, as if someone had started packing. This detail suggests Megan or her parents might have been preparing for Adam's departure. They find no note, no explanation, only silence. As the investigation deepens, interrogation becomes key. Law enforcement interviews neighbors, friends, and relatives. Someone recalls that Adam and Megan argued recently about money and custody. Another mentions that Adam seemed more withdrawn than usual, pacing the driveway at odd hours. Forensic specialists inspect Adam's social media posts, text messages, and emails, piecing together a psychological profile of a man who felt cornered and humiliated, a man who saw violence as his only escape from a perceived injustice. The police trace his financial transactions. He withdraws cash from an ATM 2 days after the murders, and the camera captures a man who looks thinner, gaunt, sweat glistening on his forehead, eyes darting nervously. As the timeline solidifies, authorities track down Adam at a downtown Tampa hotel on September 5, 2014. A SWAT team surrounds the building, negotiators call out through a megaphone. After tense hours, Adam surrenders. The child is unharmed, a miracle in a tragedy so dark. The arrest itself is quiet and methodical. Officers cuff Adam's hands behind his back, his head lowered, avoiding the flashing cameras. As he's led away, reporters shout questions he will not answer. Charges follow swiftly, 4 counts of first-degree murder. The state prepares a formidable case. In pretrial hearings, attorneys spar over evidence, admissibility of certain forensic findings, and the psychological profile of the accused. The community watches from afar, shaken. Court appearances began in earnest in 2017. In a small, climate-controlled courtroom, prosecutors lay out their case with grim determination. They show crime scene photos. Faces blanch and murmurs ripple through the gallery. The defense tries to raise doubts about Adam's intent, possibly hinting at mental instability, but the prosecution's narrative is too strong. Witnesses testify. A friend of Megan's speaks tearfully about her fear of Adam. A forensic psychologist explains how Adam's pattern of jealousy and possessiveness escalated. The jury sees surveillance footage of Adam at the convenience store, calm and methodical after the killings, buying supplies with a disturbing composure. This is the expert seeking a diagnosis. The trial stretches for weeks. Expert testimonies detail ballistic matches, DNA findings, and Adam's incriminating text messages. Prosecutors paint a picture of premeditation and cold-blooded murder. The defense struggles to counter the overwhelming evidence. In closing arguments, the prosecution demands justice for Megan, Gregory, Margaret, and Nicholas. 4 lives lost forever. The jury deliberates, tension palpable, reporters gathered outside the courthouse under a hot Florida sun. When the verdict is read, guilty, on all counts, a hush falls, followed by quiet sobbing from victims' family friends. Adam remains expressionless, eyes fixed on the floor. Sentencing is swift. The judge imposes the harshest punishment possible. The legal proceedings carry through appeals, but the outcome is the same. Adam Matos will spend the rest of his life behind bars. The legal chapters close with a sense of finality and sorrow. Outside the courthouse, local residents talk about how something so monstrous could happen in their quiet town. Many have fallen in love with their perpetrator, seeking reconciliation. In the aftermath, the Brown family's surviving relatives struggle to comprehend the loss. A memorial service is held in a local church, where white lilies line the altar, and photographs of the victims smile gently at mourners. The community comes together, delivering casseroles, offering prayers, and holding candlelight vigils. Hudson's residents are forever changed. No longer do they assume their neighbors' disputes are harmless. The media coverage is extensive, with local channels running special segments on domestic violence prevention. Charities form in the victims' names. Advocacy groups push for more resources for those trapped in abusive relationships. Local police implement new protocols, encouraging citizens to report suspicious behavior sooner and expanding community outreach programs. Over time, the tragedy becomes a cautionary tale. High school sociology classes discuss warning signs of domestic violence, and local legislators consider funding more women's shelters and mental health clinics. News analysts connect this case to a broader pattern: a frustrated partner who feels cornered, a household that fails to see the depth of danger until it's too late. Experts argue that we must learn to intervene earlier. They stress that we must recognize controlling behavior as a precursor to lethal violence. Though years pass, the memory lingers. Hudson remains a lovely spot along Florida's Gulf Coast, but its people carry a heavier awareness of human darkness. The Brown home is eventually sold, remodeled, its walls painted fresh colors, but neighbors will always recall what happened there. On anniversaries, some leave flowers by the mailbox, a quiet tribute. The family's legacy endures in scholarships and local animal rescue fundraisers, causes Megan would have cherished. We end this story not just with sadness, but with a reminder that such cases, as horrific as they are, offer lessons. Domestic violence is a silent killer, lurking behind drawn curtains and polite smiles. Psychologically, Adam Matos exemplifies how untreated mental instability and unaddressed jealousy can metastasize into atrocity. Megan and her family's murder underscores the need for vigilance, communication, and intervention. The tragedy does not define the victims' lives. They remain remembered for their kindness, love, and hopes. Thank you for joining us through this haunting journey into the heart of darkness that struck Hudson, Florida in 2014. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Have you heard of similar cases? Or do you have insight into how communities can better protect vulnerable family members? Let's discuss. And if you're drawn to cases that explore the psychological depths of domestic violence and the dire need for prevention, consider looking up the stories of other perpetrators who gave off warning signs long before tragedy struck. Each narrative can bring us closer to understanding and preventing such horrors in the future. We'll continue our search for the truth after this quick ad break for Case WB on Copenhagen.